everybody present here for the YathaKatha event. YathaKatha is an international literature film festival.
Now we'll immediately start with the panel. For the panel discussion, हमारे first guest हैं
Denzil Smith. I would request him to please come up on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause.
Denzil Smith is a versatile actor known for his work in theatre, television and film. He has starred in plays like Every Good Boy Deserves Favour and Bombay Jazz. His film credits include Tenet, Viceroy's House and The Lunchbox. He has also appeared in TV series such as The Mind the Malhotras and Beecham House. Denzil is the artistic director of the theatre company State Smith.
Our next guest for the panel is Joy Bimal Roy. I would request him to please come up on the stage. Joy Bimal Roy, an author for more than 40 years of work. He's well known for his vital writing skills, draw inspiration from the British authors. He's well known for his excluded fields including films and designs. His book, Rimbles of Bandra Boy, showcase his observation skills and harmony, adding his impressive careers. Now, I would request Nandita Puri to please come up on the stage.
Nandita Puri ma'am, a former English literature student, started as a journalist with leading publications. She's also a broadcaster, script committee member, TEDx talker and author. Notable works include a biography of Om Puri and best-selling book on child trafficking. In 2017, she launched the Om Puri Foundation at Cannes and currently chairs the foundation.
Our final and the last guest for the panel discussion is Suguna Sundram. I would request her to please come up. Suguna Sundram has a diverse 3 years decade career in our Hindi film industries, including writing events, managing events, script for the food shows, and working on films. Romeo Akbar Walter. She's currently a creative producer for the web series and films of OTT platform. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your round of applause for all our 4 panelists. I would like to thank 4 of you for joining us. I hope it would be a very great.
Thank you.
In case you don't know, Ramblings of a Bandra Boy, the book by Joy Bimal Roy, is actually a collection of his Facebook posts over a few years. And some of his posts were incredibly interesting. So a lot of his friends, especially during and post the pandemic, found a lot of joy from those posts. I mean, and Joy speaks with complete honesty. So when he put together this book, it got a lot of support from his friends for sure. But on the merit of the writing alone, it stands as an immensely readable book and a must recommend to anybody who's interested in good reading.
I just wanted to thank all of you for being here. And so the plan is that Nandita and Denzil will do readings from the book, because obviously when you talk about a book, you don't know what's inside. So until you know what's inside, you can't discuss that, right? So they'll be doing the readings, and then Suguna will ask some questions, maybe and it's thrown open to you all to ask if anything you want to after that. So shall we begin with Denzil? Yeah? He's going to read out. You want to read? You sure?
So this is the book, Ramblings of a Bandra Boy, by the author, right here in flesh and blood, Mr. Joy Bimal Roy. This is story number 19, In Pursuit of Happiness or Looking for Riaz Bhai.
With due apologies, this is all about weed, so I'm not sure it's the appropriate thing for college students to be listening to, but anyway, it's my experience with weed, so.
A few weeks ago, my school classmate M and I drove down to Mahabaleshwar for a class reunion in the club. An old college friend who now lives en route to Mahabaleshwar has been entreating me to visit him for several years. So, I told M I would like to drop in to see him for a short while. M is very laid back and easygoing and agreed without demur. Much to the displeasure of my family and friends, I have started smoking again after a hiatus of 32 years. We smokers are now treated like social pariahs. So I was overjoyed to find an ashtray full of cigarette butts on his veranda. As I lit up, my friend casually asked me if I would like something stronger. Some of my less reputable friends have been urging me to switch to weed as it is considered to be beneficial. But somehow, I hadn't had the opportunity of smoking it so far, so I agreed with alacrity, much to the horror of M. My friend has a son, said his son was the best one to do the honors, and bellowed, Chotu! A strapping 6-foot young man with a delectable afro emerged from inside. He was 2 feet high when I last saw him, so naturally I was caught by surprise. I watched in fascination as Chotu deftly and expertly rolled a joint under the watchful eye of his parents. Then we passed it around, taking puffs in amiable silence, with the exception of M, who looked like he was ready to burst an artery. I began to waft into a better space and decided I had to have some for myself. Chotu helpfully offered me seeds of the plant. It grew in their backyard. But his father said that wasn't a good idea at all. Instead, Chotu would tell me where to get it in Mahabaleshwar. He said I should ask for Riaz Bhai and tell him the young man with the afro had sent me, but I should be very discreet and ask, Kuch hai? He then gave me directions. Go to the main circle, take the first left into a very narrow lane, look for a very shady staircase and ask for Riaz Bhai. He then gave me directions. Brimming with enthusiasm, I reached Mahabaleshwar, and the first thing M did was to spill the beans to the rest of the group. Their faces were a study in horror and disbelief. I was told in no uncertain terms that I should desist, because no one was going to bail me out if I was put into a lockup. So much for loyalty. So off I went alone in my pursuit of happiness. I reached the main circle and took the first gully on the left, but it didn't seem to have any shady stairways. I asked the shopkeeper, "Idhar koi Riyaz bhai hai?" He looked at me quizzically and said, "Idhar to bahut sare Riyaz bhai hai. Wo kya karte hain?" This was the one question I could not answer. I was on the verge of backing off when a bystander who had overheard us asked me helpfully, "Kya, tailor hai?" I said no. But this guy would not give up. "लगता है आप अमन होटल वाले रियाज भाई को ढूंढ रहे हैं. चलिए मैं लेकर चलता हूं." I was propelled towards a joint that looked shady enough to qualify. There was a decrepit waiter sitting at the counter. I asked him if he was Riaz Bhai. He said, "Nahi, andar hai, bulata hu, baithiye." There were no other customers. I became the uncomfortable focus of attention of the listless waiters hovering in the background. I began to feel like E.T. Finally, one of them sidled up and offered me tea. By this time, I was in need of something far stronger, but I settled for tea. One of my friends called and asked if I was already in the lockup. I ignored the jibe and said I had hit bullseye and would be with them shortly. Then Riaz Bhai emerged. I told him that the young man with an afro, this being done dumb charade style, he had sent me. He gave me a basilisk stare and asked, "For what?" I threw caution to the winds and I did a dumb charade puffing number. His brow cleared. "Acha, hukka, First blur. In desperation, I called Chotu and put Riaz Bhai on the line. After a brief conversation, he disconnected, gave me a knowing smirk, and told me the person I was looking for was Riaz Memon, and gave me directions. It was only then that I came to know there is another circle in Mahabaleshwar. I could have strangled Chotu. So off I went and came to what I thought was the journey's end. A piddly little hole in the corner, photocopy come mobile accessory shop in a narrow gully. But there was still no sign of any shady steps. A handsome young man was behind the counter, busy with two loutish characters whose phones were being fixed. I waited impatiently for them to leave and then asked the fellow if he was Riaz Memon. He said he was the son and asked, "Kya kaam hai?" I was a bit unnerved by now, so I said cautiously, "Do you know a young man with an afro?" Dumb charade mode. He gave me a lopsided leer. "माल चाहिए ना? हाँ, अब धंधा बंद कर दिया है." I could have wept with frustration. By this time, a toothless man had materialized behind me. "आपको रियाज दांगे चाहिए?" Huh? I wondered how many more Riaz Bhais I would have to tackle before I hit pay dirt. But they say third time lucky. The third Riaz Bhai was a cheery man who gave me a toothy grin and before I could open my mouth asked me, "Maal chahiye?" So much for discretion. It was then that I noticed there was a narrow staircase beside his shop and he ascended to get me my elusive treasure. It was shadowy but not shady. But I was so elated that I was willing to overlook my trials and misadventures, and I returned triumphantly to the club, holding up my hard-earned trophy.
Soon after, we moved from Godiwala bungalow to the cottage beside it. My friend Munni Nasreen Kabir and a then partner, Peter Chappell, visited India. Peter, a professional photographer and cameraman, fell in love with our cottage and insisted on taking photos of it and of my sister Yashodhara and me as well. But he added that the only time he could manage for the photo session was at 8 a.m. on the morning of his departure. I'm not a morning person, but somehow I managed to get ready by 8 a.m. that day. Then I opened the front door and stood there waiting expectantly to greet Peter. The gate swung open, but instead of Peter, a woman with a fabulous figure dressed in lycra shorts and t-shirt wandered in and soon stood there looking at the cottage and me. The gate was some distance from the house, so I ventured forth tentatively to ask what she wanted. She promptly started walking towards me, and as she approached, I realized she was the one and only Rekha, sultry siren of the silver screen. I gathered my wits about and said, "You worked on a film made by my brother-in-law Basu Bhattacharya." She looked speculatively at me and in a deep, husky voice said, "No way." Then a thought struck her and she said, "That means you're Bimal Das?" And a voice trailed off with a question mark. So I filled in the blank saying, "Son." Again her response was, "No way." I couldn't think of anything else to say after that, but she continued to stand there gazing at the house over my shoulder. So I asked her, "Would you like to come in?" She promptly said, "I would love to." I think she was waiting to be asked. I ushered her inside and she stood stock still in the middle of the room while her eyes roved all around the room, taking in every detail, and then came to a standstill on me. She breathed, "I love your home. It's so," and she paused dramatically. I waited expectantly for her to complete the sentence. She continued, "It's so me." I was very thrilled by her reaction, and suddenly I heard myself saying, Would you like to see my bathroom? Actually, I had just completed my bathroom and I was very proud of the results. One wall was sheer glass overlooking my terrace and trees as far as the eyes could see. The tiles were cerulean blue and handmade by a potter, and so was the wash basin. The minute I said it, I cringed with embarrassment and wondered what she was thinking. But she surprised me by saying, I would love to. She gushed breathily over the bathroom when I suddenly remembered that my niece Mishka was asleep in the loft above my room and we may have woken her up with our conversation. I told Rekha in a whisper that we had better return to the living room because my niece Mishka was asleep upstairs. Rekha stopped in her tracks, clutched her heart, and said huskily, Mishka, oh, I love Mishka. I want to meet her. To say I was taken aback was putting it mildly. How on earth did Rekha know Mishka? Still reeling under Rekha's magic spell, I climbed the narrow stairs to the loft and shook Mishka urgently. Come on downstairs, someone wants to meet you. Mishka grunted and got up in slow motion and walked down like a zombie with her long hair covering her face. I couldn't see her expression when Rekha gushed and cooed all over her, but I did after Rekha left. She was furious. You should have warned me, Joy Mamu. I haven't brushed my teeth, nor hair. I look like something the cat brought in. No amount of appeasing would mollify her. She never forgave me. And Rekha never visited again. Incidentally, the reason how Rekha knew Mishka was my brother-in-law Basu Bhattacharya shot almost his entire film Astha, starring Om Puri and Rekha in his apartment in Golmist. Mishka used to spend a lot of time there playing with Bashu's daughter, her cousin Maman.
Joy, so how did the journey actually take place from being a collection of your Facebook posts and urgings from your friends to a full-fledged book that is now featuring in Lit Fests?
To be very honest, I never thought that it would turn into a book. The whole inspiration came from all of you, including Suguna was one of my biggest champions. She kept saying, when are you going to publish it? And finally, a friend called Amit Khanna, who also is a writer and a film person, he took it on himself to offer the book to HarperCollins. HarperCollins took 1 year to tell me that they are not publishable because they are in the public domain. I don't know why they couldn't tell me at the beginning and made me wait 1 year for that. But by that time, I think I thought to myself that, well, if Amit thinks it's publishable, then maybe I should try further. So again, I tried Penguin and the same thing happened. So by that time, जैसे ज़ेद हो जाता है ना, I thought, okay, now somehow I'm going to publish it. I have a school friend who's a publisher in Delhi. So he brought it to the point where he could offer it for Amazon US, Amazon UK as print on demand, and in India on Kindle. But he told me very categorically that he cannot do anything here, you know. So finally I found myself being a publisher, a distributor, or whatever. And my advice to you is never write a book and never publish it yourself. I mean, like, it's completely mad. So it's a mad journey.
Yeah,
But
we've all
anyway.
heard and we've read again on Joy's Facebook account of all the trials and travails that he's had.
I'm actually sitting and packing books. Can you believe it? I'm a seller on Amazon. That's the only way I can sell my book. Oh, they're sold in 2 bookshops. It's not, I shouldn't complain. But still, I mean,
Okay, he's a prolific writer but a reluctant author. Was it difficult for you to decide, considering you wrote every day, especially during a year and a half of the pandemic, was it difficult for you to decide what you want to put into the book, or did that process come easily?
no, you know, that process never happened. It's a completely, that's why it's 440 pages. It's not my, it's, so I just sent everything to Amit, and I was too lazy to do the sorting out. So that whole thing went to Ruben. And
Which is why we have a book of 440 pages
440
and
pages.
possibly 4 kilos.
No, 1 kilo. It
Okay.
is. It weighs 1 kilo. Somebody said they'll get hernia putting it on their tummy and reading it. Yeah. That's yeah.
This book.
Yeah, you can pick it up and see. It's a weapon. You could kill somebody with it, actually. Ah,
Yeah, pick another one.
yeah.
Buy two.
Denzil, how did you come to be part of this? Since the book was launched in Bombay on the 2nd of September, it's seen multi-city launches, it's traveled all along, and it's still on a journey. So the ramblings are moving to other cities. Denzil, how did
So
you
the
come to be
title of
part
the book,
this? Yeah.
the title of the book is what brings us together. We are both Bandra boys, and we both have grown up there and lived all our lives there. And I have known Joy for many, many years, like most people in Bandra do. Everybody knows everybody. It's like a little incestuous community, you know. So yeah, including Sev sir, whom I also know very well, very accomplished theatre director. So, and so that's how. And then Joy called me up and said, "Will you read? I've got a book out, and
Have
will
you
you
actually read the book, Denzil?
I've read lots of it. I've read lots of it, and I find it very interesting because I know most of the people in it.
Yes. Yes.
You know, or even if the names are not mentioned, I know whom he's alluding to. You know?
Sure.
So it's been a wonderful journey along with Joy and with Nandita
Nandita, how
since
did-
the launch, and we've had a lot of fun doing this. Yeah, yeah.
How did you step in?
I stepped in because I've known Joy forever. Joy worked with my husband, and I've known the family forever. His grandnephew and my son are also friends, best of friends, so it's like generations. And then I've been reading his posts, and like Suguna, like a whole lot of us, we've been telling him, you must write, you must have a book published. And you heard the story how it got published. And I was very surprised when he said, will you read? And I said, yeah, sure. And he said, and so it's done, okay, you and Denzil. I said, Denzil, as in Denzil Smith? You know, I mean, he is an actor, and I don't know how I got roped in, but it's fun, and we enjoy. And it's always a pleasure to reread Joy's. And let me tell you, it's ideal for youngsters because you're... no? No, what I mean is this generation, yeah. That's why I'm telling them they should read again because
No,
it's
but
short
let me-
posts. It's
Gen Z's sense of humor is different.
You say that all of us have been saying how we've known each other for a really long time, and I realize that this generation is
They-
about
none
4
of them-
generations
yeah.
after ours. So the things we laugh at are probably not what they laugh at, but there is a sense of universal, whatever, truths, untruths, emotions, and stuff that comes out in Joy's book. It makes for fabulous reading, like I said, on the merit of the reading alone. Leave aside the emotional aspect of it. There's a lot of fun in it, and I think our generation, we had a whole lot of more wholesome fun that wasn't being recorded all the time in the digital space and all. So we did a lot of fuller living, you know. Joy, your mother gave you the most amazing weapon when she said you need to be honest at all times. I see that you have utilized it fully in the book, but post the launch of the book, I'm sure there are a number of people in the industry and the world related to it who possibly recognize themselves, and people from their worlds who recognize them. So have you had frantic calls and lost any friendships in the bargain?
I have had a very interesting, I have to recount that. You know, it's what truth is. Truth is, there's perceived truth and there's absolute truth, but nobody knows what absolute truth is because we all perceive truth as our own truth. It's a little complicated. Maybe I'm not making myself clear. However, so I will give the name because otherwise it won't make sense. Many years ago, I did something extremely stupid in the sense that I agreed to do something which, when I think back, I wonder how on earth did I even agree. I have a friend called Nasreen Munni Kabir, and she was making a TV series for a French something. I had to fix appointments with the top 5 of every category in film. Top 5 actors, top 5 actresses, and it had to be within a window of time when the unit was coming down. So that included Shah Rukh Khan. Now, the point is that getting appointments from them, meeting them, finding out is now, when I think back that I did it, it's remarkable because, but it happened. So so I'm going to talk about Shah Rukh Khan. I didn't know Shah Rukh Khan, but I used to work for a company called HMV, which also basically sold film music. So in the process, I met Karan Johar's dad, Yash Johar. He's an absolutely wonderful man. And he had just made a film called Duplicate. So he knew Shah Rukh. So I said, Yashji, can you fix up an appointment? Within 5 minutes, he called back and he said that you can meet Shah Rukh tomorrow at Mehboob Studio. He's shooting. I went there. There was, unlike now, there were no people at the gate stopping you or whatever. Even then, it was easier. He told me yes, and that was the end of it. Now, after the shoot, I got a call from his secretary saying, deposit 50,000 rupees in a certain patient's name in Nanavati Hospital. So when I told Munni that, she freaked. And she said, that's impossible. You know, I can't do, I mean, what is demanding money? So I said, well, you know, it's very embarrassing for me because I've been the person, I'm the go-between. You know, I fixed it up. Now, what do I say to him? So she said, she thought about it and then she said, okay, pay 25,000. So I went to Nanavati and I paid the amount and I thought that's the end of the matter. However, now Munni says to me that Shah Rukh never takes money. Only Salman takes money, and I have never shot with Salman. So therefore, this is not possible. Okay, so apart from that, she said, you never fixed an interview. It was by some producer called Parker who did it. So I'm trying to tell her that I went physically and handed the money to the hospital. I know it was for Shah Rukh. I know that I went and met him, but she feels that this hasn't happened, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that it's a question of what you perceive as truth. Finally, she checked back with her production person, and the production person said, yes, she went with me to pay the money. So at least that part was corroborated, right? But she's been constantly checking, and I'm just thinking to myself, that my truth is my truth, but it's not believed. People who don't wish to believe it or wish to see it as some other way will do so. You can't be right, you know. It's like, and therefore, what you said about the truth, it can make you unpopular.
Possible,
Her last line was to me was, let's agree to disagree. So that was
okay, but there's an enormous amount of truth and nothing but the truth in Joy's writings. So that is something that I guess when you get to be our age, you learn to enjoy a bit more. I think I'm done. Anybody have questions?
What I want to add is that the book has a certain quality in it, which is like as if if you're reading it, you'll feel like somebody is talking to you. It is not as if, you know, you're reading a novel and it's, the written word is there and I'm here. This is as if the book is talking to you, as if there's a voice talking to you. And that is a special quality about this book. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I would like to ask a question to Joy, sir. So you told us about all your journey of writing this book and whatever it was, but I am excited to know that the book you read, what was your inspiration for writing that book?
It isn't a book. That's what I keep saying. When people say you've written a book, I don't feel I've written a book, because this is actually, it's something I wrote over, say, 3 or 4 years. So I write every day, right, virtually on Facebook. It could be anything. It could be an old memory. It could be an incident, something that happened yesterday. Yeah, that's why it's called rambling. There's no logic to it. There's nothing. There's just my feelings, my perceptions about things. And when put together, it's become a book, because what else can you call it? But in my mind, it's not a book. It's a collection of my Facebook posts. So it looks like that, but in my mind, it's not a book. I don't know how to explain this to you. So anyway, it's complicated. I don't know how to explain it.
It was very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And now heading to the audience. If anybody in the audience want to ask him a question.
This is my friend from Bangalore.
RV University.
RV
sir.
University, yes. He asked me
you.
very probing questions at Bangalore. I see you have something more.
So yes, sir. I just wanted to ask you about the concept of truth and perception. You said, do you feel like truth is the act of fooling the mind? Actually,
No. How can truth be fooling the mind?
if you basically think that what is true is basically what we perceive, and perception is subjective, and
Yes.
and
Yes,
and
true.
if this is the case,
Yeah.
and if this is the case, then basically all you have to do to make a person believe that something is true is basically make him or her basically feel that it's true. And this is one way of controlling the mind.
That sounds very scary. I mean, it's not quite that scary. The point is that when you say, suppose now in the case that I narrated, I know that I spoke to Yashji, right? But if I tell you I spoke to Yashji, how will you know whether I'm telling the truth or not?
Yeah,
You don't know.
it can
So
never
it
be
depends.
verified.
It depends on your perception of me as to whether I lie or whether I tell the truth. So it's all perceptions. And as you say, that if I say something to you, you will only take it as, how would I say, at face value. Correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I've told you all the whole incident. I could be lying completely. I may not have gone and met Shah Rukh at all. I'm pretending that I went and met Shah Rukh. I'm describing Mehboob studio. Maybe I never went. Maybe I've never even walked into Mehboob studio, right? So how do I convince somebody that I'm telling the truth? It depends on your perception of me to whether to believe or not to believe.
Thank you, guys. Any more questions?
Yes.
And you've personally experienced the turbulence of becoming a published author and managing the process.
Yes.
And being from Bandra, you have the privileges of having good friends like Denzil and
Oh, absolutely.
Suguna and Nandita ji. So for an aspiring author and who will have to go on the self-publishing mode, how do you suggest one should pursue it?
Don't. No, actually do. Now there are many people who help. There are actually companies who undertake this. They help you to publish. They take a fee or they do something. I chose not to do it because I didn't know enough about it. And by that time, my book was already available on Amazon in the US and UK. So it was my, I'm 68, okay? I have lived a life where I started where you had to wait 10 years to get a phone connection in Bombay, right? We had no TV, no computers, nothing. So for me to see all this change, I still cannot read an e-book. For me, a book is a book. Like
Same
you have
here.
to hold in your hand.
Same here.
So my friend, my publisher friend who's in Delhi, he said, I don't understand why you want a book. It's out. It's out on Amazon US. It's print on demand. People will buy. I said, but I live in Bandra. The book is called Bandra Boy. My audience is here, not in US and UK. What am I doing, I want the book here. He said, then you do what you want to do. So I said, do I do? Then I had to take a big decision. Okay, so I have to tell you what a wonderful businessman I am. I'm Bengali. My book was 1,000 rupees to print. I'm selling it for 500. Okay? So that's my kind of way of
Mathematics that
mathematics, right. So that's why I'm saying so if you do it, I'm sure there are better ways to do this than I have done because I've done it in a completely headstrong and completely irrational way.
Publishing is the slowest profession in the world and the most ill-paying.
Totally agree.
You
and
should
understand.
have a profession, and you can do publishing for passion, for love. Because if I wrote the number of books I wrote and lived by its royalty, the publishers never pay you. They always try to hide the royalties, and especially with the Amazon and Flipkart and all, you have no idea how much is going. And more so with the now the new system of POD has come. Earlier we knew that 1,000 copies were being published, printed and all. It's very, very ill paying. So if I didn't have a rich spouse, I probably would not have survived the writer.
I started getting royalties from Amazon within a month, by the way. Yes.
And then the ramblings will grow more.
My ramblings are going in a ramble. I'm telling you, I went, you know what? I'm really mad because I was going to Bangalore for, Piyush was, look at that. I was going for my mother's photo exhibition, my father's retrospective. Suddenly, Piyush invited me to RV University. I met all the students, had readings. That just happened, right? I also decided to have a book launch without having any kind of infrastructure. So my friend Jaya did it in her store and it was fun. Vani Ganipati came and released the book. And I had 4 people who read the book from, readings. But as I said, this book is meant for people who are over 60. I don't know why we are the young. Yeah, I'm seriously. Okay, fine. Sorry. Okay, over 50. Over 50. Because my memories go back to a time which maybe people can't identify with, So that's a problem.
But that nostalgia also needs to be transferred to the next generation.
I would like to say one thing, that I feel very blessed. I feel very blessed to have been born at that time, because 2 qualities which are very rare and difficult to find, graciousness and dignity. The past, many people say don't dwell in the past. But the point is the past shapes your future. When you all grow up and when you're older, this part of your life will play a very important part, right? You learn so much. But when you will see when you grow older and you have young children, you will see that they see life completely differently. But it's up to you, and I would ask all of you to really, really tell them about the family backgrounds, what happened in your family, what your grandfather said, it's so important. So I think family history is very important. Forget about political history or whatever, that you can read in books. You need to perpetuate your family and the wonderful things that may have happened, which I think your children and your grandchildren need to know. Because for me, my past is my heritage, I don't know if I have a future or not. But the other thing, I think, yes, I will end by saying, the most important is the present. It is true. You take care of today, tomorrow takes care of itself. Always do whatever you have to do today. Live it like your last day. Live every day as though it's your last day. There's no tomorrow. And you'll have fun.